All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 16th, 2023 Grants Pass City Council meeting. We start our meetings with a moment of silence, so please join me for that. And please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first looks like 1, 2, 3. Who are we missing? We're missing Dwayne tonight. Is he?
He's out of town.
He's out. Okay. We're missing Dwayne tonight. Okay. We will get started then with consideration of an ordinance to annex the Blackberry Lane subdivision. Is it? I'm going to introduce you. Drum roll, Brad Clark.
Oh.
Sorry about that, Mayor. Bad assumption. So yes, let me pull up the slide deck here. So this is the second, I believe, subdivision annexation that the council has seen in the last few months. Land and Estates was the last one, and we don't expect this to be the last. So I've just got a few slides to walk you through. It'll be very similar to the Land and Estates. A lot of the conditions are the same. So if you approve this application tonight, it's going to annex the Blackberry Lane subdivision. It's 39 lots, about 5.8 acres, and it relates to your council goal to facilitate sustainable and manageable growth by annexing property that is already receiving our municipal services. So first few maps here just kind of show you the layout of the 39 lots that are there. This is Leonard Road on the top. This is Ray Dean Drive on the bottom. We have Redwood Avenue just about a quarter mile south of that. So we're tucked in there amongst several other subdivisions that have been platted for a while. This Blackberry Lane had 3 different phases. It was built out in 3 different phases. Here's the aerial where you can see how it was, how it kind of situates there amongst the streets and the residences. And then the next couple slides just show where they started on Leonard Lane and they built the first phase. And they just continued south. There's a phase 2 and then phase 3. It is all built out, and when it was originally platted, the developer did sign a service annexation agreement which has the consent to annex the property at some point in the future. And that annexation agreement runs with the land, and it goes to all heirs and successors, which in this case is everyone who bought property and currently owns those lots. So this has been in place since January 2020 when the final phase of Blackberry Lane subdivision it came into place. And there's a service annexation agreement information there for you. I won't go into much detail about that documentation. That's in the packet for you. But this is an example of an agreement where it covers all municipal services. We do have some agreements where they're sewer only, water only, but in this case it includes fire, it includes police. So they have been receiving all those municipal services to date. So by annexation, it really won't change anything related to the services that are received by the city of Grants Pass for any of those residents there. In March of this year, Josh Duvall, who is the president of the Blackberry Lane Homeowners Association, contacted our staff and then began working through the process to file the application. Just like the last one that you approved a few months ago, this is considered a triple majority type of annexation. So as long as you have at least 51% of the property owners who own 51% of the land, which values 51% or more of the acreage, then that qualifies for a triple majority annexation. So there are 39 property owners. 28 of them did submit written consent. 10 of them didn't respond to the letter, and then one of them is actually owned by the HOA. So this does qualify. The city surveyor prepared a map, and that's what will be sent to the state of Oregon to notify them of this change. And here's the map that we will attach to the ordinance should the council approve it, and that will move through the process. This slide just kind of talks about the process. It repeats what we did for the last annexation that you did, essentially talking about how the billing cycle will work. In this case, given where we're at in the annual cycle of property taxes and our fiscal year, the service annexation agreement is basically going to continue on for a while in terms of the payment for the city services. And then beginning July 1st, 2024, they will pay all taxes through the Josephine County Assessor's Office and through that process. I just addressed this. We do like to include the note that if interested, the residents will need to approach the library separately, so this action doesn't annex them into the library district. So this is at council's discretion, and you have a few alternatives to consider there. So happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Brad. Council, do you have any questions? Yes. Val?
Yeah, I don't remember when we did land in estates or whatever, they asked for some sort of a financial waiver or whatever, because I can't remember what that waiver was. Is there anything that that is similar to this, or was that just, I can't remember exactly. I just remember it coming in front of us, because I do know that they've been working on this one longer than anybody's been working on it, and I have to say, between, Judy starting the ball rolling and first bringing to my attention, I had no idea there were people out there who were receiving services and not being able to vote, and that woke me up to that idea, and then, to have it passed on to Josh, to have him take charge and go through that. He's one of my previous students. It's nice to see him all grown up and do those very adult things. So anyway, I just know that nothing would have come of it if they had not brought it up for the fourth. So I just wanted to make sure they got every privilege for that, for pushing that through. So That was that question.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's the answer. We processed it in the same manner as we did land in the States.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank
Did
you.
anyone from the public want to speak on this item?
This will be short. I don't even need notes. I'm Judy Ano in Grants Pass.
Judy, can you make sure you're...
Right here? Okay. Thanks. I'm Judy Ano in Grants Pass. Well, now I am, if you say yes. I'm on Blackberry Lane. I'm the guilty party. And I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys looking at this. And Brad and Valerie are great. I contacted Valerie first just because I've been referred to her, and then she got me to Brad, and it all went from there. And it didn't take a while, because it just took a while between all parties. So I'm not complaining. I'm just happy. Thank you.
Did anyone else want to speak? All right, we'll close public comment and turn it over to council for discussion. Valerie?
I move to adopt the ordinance to annex the Blackberry Lane subdivision into the city limits.
Seconded by Joel. Any discussion on the motion?
Oh, first reading.
Title only?
Title only.
Do you accept her amendment there, Joel? First reading, title only?
I'm sorry.
I didn't say first time reading.
Oh, I second that, sure, yeah.
Okay. With no further discussion, Valerie, you made the motion to adopt the ordinance. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass annexing the Blackberry Lane subdivision located between Leonard Road and Radian Drive into the city limits.
All right, Brian?
Same motion, second reading, please.
Seconded by Rick. All right, any discussion? Brian, you made the motion this time. How do you vote?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass annexing the Blackberry Lane subdivision located between Leonard Road and Radine Drive into the city limits.
Thank you. Welcome to the City of Grants Pass. All right. Next up on the agenda, we have an ordinance that would amend the municipal code regarding a public safety utility fee, and this is our Finance Director, J.C. Rowley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the Public Safety Utility Fee Ordinance. I'm going to give you a little background and then some highlights within the ordinance, as well as another ordinance that this ties to in City Municipal Code, and the relationship to council goals is to enhance community safety. A little bit of background, these are the 13 presentations, not including tonight, that we've had since I've gotten here over the 15 months regarding public safety. You can see some of these are our recent budget discussions as far as budget reductions, and as well as a county sales tax back in July of last year. On July 17th, Council gave staff direction to draft an ordinance for public safety utility fee with a $0 on the comprehensive rate schedule, which is also on the consent agenda later tonight. I put that on there. If it is unanimous, then it's kind of procedural to put that on the consent agenda. The public safety utility fee uses the transportation utility fee methodology, which was the same model used for the jail services fee back in 2014. This model correlates to be the more closely to the call volume and revenues generated. Other methodologies considered included water meter size, water usage, impervious area, and per account. I'm going to start going into the ordinance, and Gus is a little bit better at this than me, so feel free to stop me at each one of these slides. So public safety services is defined and includes, but is not limited to, services provided by Grants Pass Police Department and Grants Pass Fire and Rescue, as well as the operating, non-operating, debt service, and capital requirements for all other public safety related facilities, programs, and or services. .90.060, establishment of the revision of public safety utility fee. Fees for individual properties shall be upon the developed use of the property and the direct and indirect benefit of public safety services. Collection of the fee for each property shall be made by a monthly charge, which shall commence on the first day of October 2023. If there is neither public water or public wastewater service to the improved property governed by this code, a monthly bill shall be issued and shall be due and payable within 15 days. And that issuance on the initial October 2023 is at $0. 8.90.070, public safety utility fee restricted for use. All fees collected by the city under the public safety utility fees shall be restricted for use in providing such public safety services and other public safety capacities to the extent that the fees collected are insufficient to properly provide public safety services. The costs of the same may be paid from such or other city funds as may be determined by the city council, but the city council may order reimbursement to such fund and additional fees are thereafter collected. All amounts on hand in the public safety program shall be invested by the city manager in investments proper for city funds. What this is saying is if we charge this for city public safety, the money has to stay in public safety. 8.90.080, city to maintain other public safety related facilities. The city intends to maintain all public safety related facilities within city-owned lands, city rights-of-way, and city easements, and may maintain other publicly accepted public safety related facilities within the city and urban growth boundary where agreements for annexation have been obtained or where the city receives funding from the county for public safety. The city manager shall develop and implement a maintenance plan for city public safety related facilities that shall be properly maintained and that the city's investment therein shall be preserved in so far as possible to do so with the funds available in accordance with policies adopted by council. It's a very legal way of saying we're going to take care of the police station and fire stations. .90.090, imposition of utility fee. The categories of development for the administration of the public safety utility charge shall match the categories description and calculation methodology maintained in Chapter 8.60 Transportation Utility Fee and are as follows. So we have single-family residential, multifamily residential, condominium mobile park, elderly care facility, major home occupation, and the list continues to general office, medical office, hospital, minor traffic, retail, commercial, general retail, commercial, moderate traffic, retail, commercial, high traffic, retail, commercial, automobile sales, hotel, motel, nonprofit, and industrial. Each one of those has about a paragraph as what describes them in the 8.60 chapter in municipal code. 8.90.100, principles of categorization. Each building is categorized based on the methodology established in chapter and section 8.60.100 of the Transportation Utility Fee and Ordinance. And now I'm going to go through what that mentions, at least a piece of it. So you'll see I highlighted this. This is the language from 8.60.100 in its own principle categorization. Section A reads that each building is categorized based on the primary activity of the establishment that occupies the building or site. The primary activity will be established by the relative number of transactions or visits from the general public rather than the volume of sales or dollars. Within the same code, Section B, where distinct and separate businesses are located within a single building and share a common entrance from the parking area, the businesses shall be categorized and charged as a single business using the category which fits most of the businesses within the building. If there is no clear majority of use, the moderate traffic retail commercial category shall apply. Where distinct and separate businesses are located within a single building and each has its own entrance from the parking area, the businesses shall be categorized and charged as separate businesses. Section C, where a single business includes activities which could be defined as different categories of use, the entire business will be categorized as a single use based on the primary use of the building. If there is no clear primary use, the moderate traffic retail commercial category shall apply. And then I'm going to skip over several of the other categories and go to J, where two potential rates may be applied to a single category, such as elderly care facilities. The calculations shall be made utilizing both methods, and the lesser of two fees established as the applicable fee for the development would apply. So basically, if you have a business out there that is multi-use, we'll do the calculation and figure out which is cheaper for the individual. And then back to the Public Safety Utility Code. So 8.90.130, billing and collection of the public safety utility fee. Under C, unified billing, the public safety utility fee shall be billed and collected by the city in the same manner and at the same time as water, wastewater, stormwater, and/or transportation user service charges. Partial payments on utility bills shall be allocated first to the public safety charge, second to the transportation charge, third to the water charge, fourth to the stormwater charge, and lastly to the wastewater charge. The customer shall not be allowed to specify a different allocation. (8.90.150) exemptions. The city council may, by resolution, exempt any class of user when it determines the public interest deems it necessary. The city will exempt school district, county government, city government, and special districts formed under Oregon law and local government or any Chapter 190 combination governmental entity controlled by local governments from paying a public safety utility fee for facilities owner leased and operated by said entities provided such facilities are used for governmental purposes. And this is the same language that was pulled from the Transportation Utility Fee Municipal Code language. So your call to action is at council's discretion. There's a few alternatives up there. You can approve the ordinance as written. Currently, this does not have a COLA within. As the discussions for the 13 times over the 15 months, there was no mention or a preference for a COLA within this, but that is a potential amendment that you may be able to put in there. Or you can disapprove the ordinance and direct staff to provide other financial means to provide resources for the ongoing provision of public services. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions, Valerie?
Yeah, I think this is more of a clarification, and I think it's because this sounds really confusing. It says here, the primary activity will be established, and this is talking about principles of categorizing businesses, by the relative number of transactions or visits from the general public rather than the volume of sales or dollars. And nobody's standing out there counting the number of cars that are coming in. There is a book in the transportation. Every business has been pre-categorized when they went through planning. And I just think that's important for people to know that, that is an actual formula that has been worked out for each of the businesses. So that's kind of predetermined.
Yeah, Brad probably be able to answer better than I can, but it comes from the IT manual on the trips generated per business type and square footage.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure the public understood that is where that number comes from. It's not from us standing out there, watching how many cars drive in to a particular business.
Questions? Rick?
Thank you, JC. JC, you said the last time this method was used was for the jail fee for the city to keep the jail open. Do you recall how much revenue that created?
Yeah, at the time they were looking about 890,000, I believe.
Thank you.
Joel?
Good presentation, I appreciate it. On slide 13, it seems like the criteria for which category a business is categorized into depends on doors to the outside. Is that the way, am I correct in that?
Yes, it can. Again, this question's come up quite a few times. There's a few quirky businesses out there that share one entrance. And so in that case, based on what this is saying, is if you share an entrance, it's going to be multi-use, and they'll potentially move you to the moderate traffic retail, and you share that under classification for the total square footage.
Yeah. So if you share an external entrance, there's obviously internal entrances that are not shared. And the other category then has external entrances that aren't shared.
That is correct. So if there's external entrances to the building that are separate for each business.
And what's the rationale for that?
Potentially each business type generates its own trips.
Well, they would do that regardless of how many doors are in the building, correct?
But I think based on the IT manual, a coffee shop could get more traffic than a bookstore.
Sure, whether they share a door or not.
That is correct.
It doesn't make any difference how many doors are shared. It depends on the type of business.
Which is why this provision's written this way. If they share doors on the inside, then it's the total on the inside, and it changes potentially this classification to not be singular in the business, but more multifaceted, like the moderate traffic retail commercial.
Okay, so then do we know the difference in terms of charging for the fee between those two categories?
Yeah, there's 13 different categories. They're currently within the 8.60 transportation utility fee. Each category can also be a commercial A through commercial G, depending on the square footage.
Yeah. Okay, I need some more information, and I appreciate what you've done. You've done really good, but I just need more information.
There was an email sent out last Thursday regarding the potential website for council, and that grid is also on that website of information. Just for point of clarification too, the statistics say about 80% of the accounts in the city of Grants Pass are single-family residential. Another 9-10% is multifamily. And then the remaining 10% is commercial. Of that 10%, 91% is graded at commercial A.
So tell me if this is correct. I got a coffee shop. I share a common external entrance. I pay one fee. I got a coffee shop in the same building with the same number of businesses. I have my own external entrance. I get paid, or I have to pay a different fee. Same business. Different location, different external entrances.
Yeah, and it's an apples to oranges thing. If it's the same square footage, the same two businesses, potentially, right? You have the same square footage of two a coffee shop in one building, right, that has an A with two, let's say coffee shop B has the same entrance, let's see if I can get this right, you potentially could run into an inequity of coffee shops being charged something different based
Yeah.
on their square footage of their like partner next to them.
And if you didn't run into that inequity, there would be no use in having two different categories, correct?
Potentially, but that's why the code's also written that way, because we have unique standards out there in the city that not every person has a brick and mortar as a single business.
I understand that. Okay. Yeah, I need to look at it a little closer to more fully understand it, and I apologize for that.
Any other questions? Brian?
Yeah, thank you, JC. On page 50 of the packet, under section 8.90110, the section's titled Determination of Utility Fee, and it states the city manager shall determine the fee for each utility account. And so I was just looking for clarification on that. Does that mean, what does that mean exactly?
Hold on, I have actually 8.6 up here. Let's see if I can cross-examine it.
What's the page number again, Brian?
It's page 50 of the packet.
So it's 8.90.110, determination of the utility fee.
Yeah.
And so I believe in somewhere, and Augustus may be able to help me out here, in 8.60, there's a similar provision in the transportation utility fee that also gives the city manager purview as to code compliance of what the establishment is. And this is basically saying that set forth in Table A, which is that gridded table I'm talking about with the trip generation and how everybody fits into every category, is what it's equating it to.
It says the city manager shall determine the fee for each utility account. Is that based on that chart, based
That is
on their
correct.
classification?
So set forth in Table A.
Okay.
Table A is that 13 category plus your 4 residential categories or 5 residential categories set in Chapter 8.60.
So doesn't city council determine the fee and the city manager implements the fee or enforces the fee?
And again, I could be wrong, and Augustus may have to look this up. I think you give the city manager authority to basically do code compliance.
Yeah, you are establishing the structure of the fee, and then when the application of that fee, the city manager defines or designee defines that business. So a business comes in, they have a storefront, they are a law firm with 2,500 square feet. We look at those categories and determine where that goes, and that's how the fee is determined based on that table. And then if there is a conflict with where the owner of that business thinks that they're not put in the right category, there is an appeal process.
Okay, would, I just have an issue with the language of shall determine the fee. I think it might be a little more appropriate to say the city manager shall determine the category for each utility account as opposed to the fee. And that's, I guess that's not really a question, so I'll leave it at that for the moment. But then I did have one other question. Just so we're all clear here, this is, our action is to put a $0 fee on the comprehensive fee schedule with the intent of modifying that $0 at some point in the near future. And just so I'm clear, JC, just so I'm clear on what we're talking about numbers-wise, if the levy passes, we're looking at a $25 to $30 a month utility fee for single-family residents?
I believe if the levy passes, and can I answer if the levy passes in that frame of answer? I'm just gonna look at you, Augustus.
I'm sorry, I was looking at something, I'm looking up something else.
Sorry, can I answer as if the levy passes? I don't want to get into
We have to be careful
Yeah,
from an ethics perspective about talking about levy passing or not passing, since it has been brought forward for a vote in November.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, then I will stop. Thank you.
Any other questions, Rick?
JC, on that same section on item B, paragraph B, on the building measured by the gross square footage, do you get that from the assessor's office, or how do you determine that?
To be honest, I don't have the answer to that question, but I could definitely get there. There is, I'm guessing it's on our GIS layers, and which potentially comes from the assessor's office.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Rob?
So for properties that don't currently have a utility account, don't have a water bill, so to speak, how is that handled?
Well, you would have to have a utility account out there for us to charge you. It has to be developed property based on the definitions. There are several instances out there to where people are on well water, and that's both residential and commercial. And so people may not be getting water, but are still being charged the transportation utility fees. So this is going to match whoever is receiving a transportation utility fee will receive a public safety utility fee.
Other questions? All right, let's open it up for public comment. And first, we have somebody on the phone. So I'm going to have Mark go ahead, state your name, and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Hi, Mark Seligman, Selma, Oregon, resident of Josephine County for 28 years, long-time user of Grants Pass, many things. I want to say that the public should realize this is a maneuver by those in the city council that approve this without voting for more money for law enforcement. This is something that citizens are going to have to pay without any, say so. That is morally wrong. The sales tax is morally wrong. Police are not a utility. We live in a county and a city that's just above the poverty line. We have insurance rates going up. We have taxes going up. We have all the inflation things going up. We live in a poverty-stricken area. You're going to add $50 to someone's bill, and businesses you could add as much as $1,000. What are you trying to do to the economic aspects of this area? We're a distressed county. Now, I will give you one solution. I'm running for state rep. It's going to be my resolve to work with people to establish a statewide.
Hey, Mark, no campaigning for public office, Mark.
All right, okay, fine. I'm in favor of a water utility rate district for Grants Pass with elected officials who will determine whether a rate increase is even necessary. We have a housing affordability crisis in this town. You're going to make it more difficult for people. And like I say, I will do everything in my power as a citizen to make sure that any funding that Grants Pass gets from the state, they won't get. I'm not going to take away programs, but if there's any money that comes to
Hey, Mark, you're campaigning again. Stop.
Well, as a citizen, that's what I'm going to do, because I think this is absolutely wrong. And if you want the public to pay more money, you should have the decency to put it on the ballot. You cannot do this to a population that is just above the poverty line. If you want to increase your homelessness, rents are going up, this will go up too. People's rents will go up. Now, I don't know what else to tell you, but anybody on the city council that's running for commissioner, if you vote yes on a sales tax or this will not be forgotten. So bear in mind, you need to do what is right. You can't take advantage of people who are hurting. Distressed citizens are more important than police because you
Time.
put people over the edge. And, okay, I hope you choose the right path. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's our only caller. So is there anyone in the room who wants to speak on this issue? Please step up, state your name, let us know whether or not you live in the city limits.
Is this on?
Yes.
My name is Bracken Sharp. I'm actually a city resident, and I promise not to yell at you guys. Like Finance Director Rowley stated, you guys have had 13 discussions in the last 15 months regarding public safety funding. Much further back than that, this can has been kicked down the road, and unfortunately we are at the end of the road. We're finally here standing in a council business meeting discussing a utility fee, and I have confidence that you guys will make the right decision. You know, I commend you for seeing this through all the way. I appreciate you guys being transparent along the way and, you know, trying to blow holes as much as you can in this so that it's bulletproof and the best decision. But I know that moving forward, making a decision to better your public safety, both police and fire, is in the best interest of the community of Grants Pass. That's all I got.
If you guys want to line up behind him, you can.
Hi, David Dapper, Grants Pass citizen. I'm not a big fan of taxes, but like the only thing keeping us from being the drug-addicted Wild West right now is our public safety. And if you want your kids safe, your wives safe in the parks, anywhere, that's a reach now, but we need to support our police and our fire for sure.
Hi, my name is Gloria Christ, and I live in Josephine County. I'm also a Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce member. I live out in Cave Junction, and I've actually been through quite a lot. I'm originally from Florida, and I'm accustomed to the police coming when there's an issue. I've been kidnapped, held at gunpoint, and just really gone through a lot and not have the correct support from the police, and having to really go through a lot of loopholes to figure out how to talk to you guys to find someone to help me, including being, well, I was a bit blown off by the original deputy that helped me 3 years ago. It's been a
Gloria,
3-year...
is this related to the public safety fee?
Yes,
okay.
yes it is.
Okay.
Pardon me, this is my first time, so I appreciate your patience. It would really mean a lot if you would like to increase these fees to really do your due diligence. I would really like it if y'all would come when I call and to not make me as a survivor have to go through different loopholes to get help and support, to have to contact these people that I think that y'all should be contacting to find out, is there a witness? So please, please, if you want this money, I'm asking you to do your job, do what's right. Please be more like the police in Florida and help the people, serve the people. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Faith Mall. I believe I'm a Grants Pass citizen, but although the ordinance hasn't been signed yet. I wouldn't mind being escorted out if I had to be, but we're telling you not the truth here. Am I allowed to ask questions for clarification, or do I need to just address it as comments only?
You can ask your question, but they won't answer them right now. But if the council thinks the question is interesting, they'll ask it themselves later.
Okay, I'll tweak it then. I noticed that you talked about the COLA. Is that cost of living adjustment? If so, seeing that as terms of water, adding to our water bill, I'm concerned about whether that would be adjusted every year based on ordinance that has fees as opposed to taxes. That means it's at the sole discretion of city council. And that would mean, should our public safety service in both departments or in both areas, would we have that fee likely go up every year when the unions do their negotiating for the cost of living adjustments on the COLA? That's one of them. And also, when you mentioned about water, does it have anything to do with the new water treatment plant that's being considered? You also talked about the debt service of the city. Have you reevaluated your level of debt service yet and whether or not those bonds are worth refinancing? I'm very good at that. I've helped do that for millions of dollars, so keep my name in mind. The other item is that when you were talking about, thank you, Councilor Lovelace, about counting the heads going into the buildings, you also can't count those that are doing business with them on websites and on these new telephone apps that are people being required to use. So I wanted to congratulate you on bringing that issue up. And then the other thing is that, does the business license application help in determining the size of the buildings that you're going to be using to allocate the fees and determine what's going to be charged? That might be something to look at. If I'm assuming water utility bills and business licenses all go under finance here. They did where I worked in finance admin. So that might be another way of gathering some of that data that you talked about, might be a little faster for you. Maybe tweak with your IT people how to absorb that information out and separate it. And then my last comment is, thank you. You've just now made me a full-fledged citizen, although I've been performing as one all this time. Thank you.
Good evening, Judy Aarons, residents of Josephine County. Listening to the presentation tonight, and I first want to say how much I appreciate the police department, the fire department, especially this time of year, and with the crime rising around the country. There are a lot of reasons for it, where the schools are uncontrollable and what they allow the kids to do, and it's an extra burden on the chief and a lot of people like that. So I really appreciate what you have to do in spite of everything, and then with the homeless moving in, another burden. But what I want to ask you tonight, and I think Councilor King said he had some questions, so he's concerned about some really details. It seems like the presentation tonight had a lot of laps. It had a lot of stuff going on in it. But I think the bottom line for your average citizen or average Grants Pass citizen is what are they going to pay? Mark Sullivan, he did cover a few things. And people are burdened. I mean, we've gone through COVID. We've gone through downtown shops closing because of COVID, and we don't want to become a ghost town. But my point is, people are really burdened with what are they going to do with their schools, their kids, just a whole bunch of things. So as you want to implement this program, what is the bottom line for your average family of three? How does that affect? And on top of that burden, we have a lot of single parents in this community. You know, that's unfortunate. That's a moral issue, and we don't want to go down that route. But I'm just saying, a lot of people have such a burden with the rent and everything going up and keep going up and keep going up. They're left with little things. Now, the fair did a great job this year because people were allowed to get in free. And what a compliment to the fair staff, letting people who normally wouldn't be allowed to go to the fair. They couldn't afford having 3 kids, a family, go to the fair. So it was a fun, wonderful opportunity. All I'm saying is, as you consider all these stacking things and where the prices are going to be, consider what's that average single parent of 3 parents, parent of just 3 kids, a single parent family. And Councilor King, thank you for saying you have some questions, and maybe that should be addressed before we're making a decision tonight. Thanks.
Did anyone else want to speak on this issue?
My name's Barbara. I live here in Grants Pass, and I've been here like 40 years, maybe even more, I'd have to count. I live around where the homeless are, in the park right there. We've had fires, I don't even remember how, 2 or 3, and there was these 2 women got in a fight, so one threw a rag, I don't even know what she threw in there, but the propane tank went off. We're there now, scared. There's like 30 kids in my trailer park. What are we gonna do? How do we stop them from doing stupid stuff? They say I can't even spray water on them. Because I water the back part of the fence. I wouldn't do that anyway, but we water the back side of the fence over it, trying to keep it wet enough that we don't get burned up. So how do we do this? What are we gonna do? They just go to another store that's helping them, and on the wall they have new tents and bicycles, new clothes. I know so many people that just, we're done, we're tired, but we don't know what to do about it. How do we do it? They throw rocks at us, sticks, because I'm watering my yard, and that's not even on the inside yet. Help us out, guys.
Thank you. Okay, we're just doing public comment right now about the public utility fee. So we'll save our general public comment for a little later. Rika?
Rika Brown, Grants Pass. You know, I've been talking about water rates and sewer rates around this town for a long time. Petitioned, got 1,000 signatures on, to reform these rates. And one of the biggest things I've heard people bitch about on their water bills, that's what they think of them as, their water bills, is all these extra fees. This little, the transportation utility fee. I supported that when it came in. Said they were going to build sidewalks. I was hoping I could get a sidewalk down this, Bridge Street on my side of the road. Hasn't happened. And that's a busy street, and it's a route to schools, to a school. But it has not happened. If I want to walk on a sidewalk, I have to walk across the street. And then if I walk the neighborhoods after that, there's hardly any sidewalks there either. This is a poor neighborhood. People aren't improving their houses. They aren't building them up big enough to have to put in sidewalks. In fact, they're avoiding it. And being on the water bill, this would be a big fee for something that is not a utility. A utility is has huge infrastructure that's spread out. They serve everybody. Every customer they got, they serve pretty much the same. The electricity and the gas and the water and the sewer are there when you need it every time. That's a utility. Call the cops, you never know if they're going to show up. And sidewalks, yeah, I'd like to see some in my neighborhood, more of them. And then there's the stormwater swales, which only happen on new businesses and new properties and new subdivisions. And our stuff is running just down the gutter to the river. No cleaning going on there. We are going to have a petition very soon here circulating to create a ratepayers utility rate board. That board will take your power to set rates on utilities and define them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think we're done with public comment. Let's turn it back to you, council, for discussion. Rob.
So getting back to, I think what I heard Joel's question was, just wanted to clarify with JC. On slide 14, 14? 14, 8.60.100. Or was it? So, yeah, exactly. 13, sorry. Yeah, 13. So 13, slide 13, second paragraph, where it says where distinct and separate businesses are located within a single building and each has its own entrance from the parking area, the businesses shall be categorized and charged as separate businesses. So that would be businesses that are not currently, that would apply to businesses that don't currently have any kind of utility bill? Because you can have, you could.
I guess you're taking question.
This is a question, right?
Right, it's a question to
Okay.
clarify Joel's
Okay.
question of earlier.
Typically, there is the potential for one building to take on multiple businesses and a transportation charge. Again, if anybody thinks that they are not being billed correctly for that charge, we are able to go out and have a look, I guess.
So I understand that part, and I don't think that was, it's not the question I'm asking now. I don't think it was the question Joel asked earlier. So you've got one building that has multiple businesses in it. You've got basically a collective entrance from the parking lot. So that one building, it currently has one utility bill, and that would be, they would be billed as one, essentially one collective. Okay, so if the situation was slightly different and the small businesses inside had separate entrances from the parking lot, okay, they would be charged separately. But my question is, they would be charged separately even if they currently they were not utility customers?
But yes, that is correct. So we do have instances out there where one building has multiple transportation charges based on the businesses it does have as far as entrances on the business side.
Okay, thank you.
Rick?
JC? So if a business or a building had many businesses in it and they wanted to figure out a ballpark figure just in not exact dollars, but just what range they could be looking at, could they go back and look at the old records and see what they were paying for the jail fee and then use that as a basis? Or is that...
Potentially, I think probably people don't have their bill from 10 years ago, so it might be hard to pull that up. But what you can do is on your utility bill, there is your transportation fee, and they are labeled as such. So it will say single-family residential trans as a abbreviation, and then it'll say trans A if you're a commercial A, trans B if you're a commercial B, and so on and so forth. So you could deduct what kind of classification you are currently on your business. Now, there's only so much information that we can print on the bill. So there are going to be some pitfalls if you have the situation in which people are asking of multiple businesses on one bill. I don't believe it specifically shows the number of A charges that you may have.
Thank you. That helps me.
Brian?
I don't have a question. I am a little uncomfortable with moving this forward tonight. I realize that we've had 12, 13 discussions on it over the past couple years. However, we haven't gotten a lot of feedback from the public on what... I don't think that the public has had a chance to weigh in on whether or not they think this is the best option. We're kind of making a decision in a vacuum here. I would really like to put out that survey before we make a decision so we can hear from the public. I would feel a lot more comfortable moving forward after hearing from the citizens more, given the weight of this decision. You know, we've had the city of Grants Pass has been around 136 years, I believe, and pretty sure we haven't had a public safety utility fee yet, so it's a very big decision, and I would like to get more information from the public about this option and potentially one or two other options to see what they think.
Valerie?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Brian, because I agree with what Brandon said. We've been kicking this can down the road for a long time. I got on council in 2015, and at that point, they had just gone out for the 2%, hoping that they could get rid of the levy, and that was voted down. We then went out for a a gas tax, because we knew down the road we might eventually need to put some more on the water bill, and to take the burden off of that by getting some of the traffic off I-5 and to help us with our transportation costs, and that was voted down. And then we knew in 2017, we were well aware that we were starting to go down a slippery slope. So we came together with a plan for a fire district because we knew that our fire department was underfunded, and they weren't getting what they needed. They didn't have it. We had somebody come in and give us a rate of $2.13. That's what we needed in 2018 to make our fire legitimate, and we went down to $2.03 to put it on the ballot because we knew that $2.11 was too much, and that was voted down. And then we went forward with knowing that we had to make cuts. So then we made a cut because we had gotten to that point where we realized we were digging ourselves a hole. So when you first came on council, we went a $1.6 million cut, a good part of that out of public safety. And then this last year, we made a $2.4 million cut. There is no place else to cut. And I think at this point in time, a leader stands up and says, I'm not going to let the ship go down. And that's how I feel. After the years that I've been on council, the ship is going down. And as a leader, I'm willing to say, we need more money than we can have right now. We need more money. And I am not going to let this ship go down because I consider myself a leader, and I will do something uncomfortable if it means that public safety is there. That is our #1 job, public safety. I don't care who lives in this town. Without public safety, you have nothing. You can't call, if you can't call somebody and expect to get service. I mean, I lived through 2012 in this community. I know what it was like to live out in the county and have them have no number to reach. I know that, and I know the county's in the same situation, and they're doing what works for the county, and we have to do what works for us. And I think we have run out of time. I went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting a couple weeks ago, and they just slammed us because they said, what do you mean you are at this point and you still are toying with ideas because you think your people aren't sure? You're a leader. You need to make a decision and go with it and come up with a plan and sell it. And that's where we are right now. We need to come up with a cohesive plan, and we need to go out to the community, and we need to say, this is no longer a choice. This is public safety or no public safety. And you're right, you can look, I'll say it to anybody, because I will say public safety is our #1 job. And if we can't do our job, that's a problem. And we have asked, and Mark Seligman out there, we have asked many times. And I'm to the point where I'm not really willing to let the ship go down and have us, next year what, we're gonna make another $3.some million cut? Where's that gonna come from? That's going to be police officers off the street, and we don't have any officers to lose. So I think at this point, we need to make a decision. Is the transportation fee perfect? No. But in looking at the 15 or whatever meetings that we've had, have we talked about what fits the nexus the best? Yes, after that many meetings, at some point in time, you got to stand up and move forward. And that's what I think we need to do tonight, is stand up and move forward. So I don't want a survey. I want to make a decision, and I want to go out and sell it to the public and let them know if they expect to have public safety in the city and fire. And I'd like to give kudos. Tonight's article, I had a person at my house today who was so thankful for fire, for being up at the fire when it was called, and lots of trucks and things. Yeah, that's what we all expect. It costs money, and we've been not having the money for a long time. So that's my thought.
Joel?
I'm sorry.
Brian, wait. It's Joel's turn.
I certainly support Valerie's need that this issue is ripe for resolution. There's also costs of not gathering enough money for public safety that is borne by everybody. I think people have expressed that. Where I'm at personally is we need to make the decision to put it on the water fee. The methodology, I think we need to be open. And I think we need another hearing on that. Brian, if you want to talk, go ahead, but you don't need to stand up. But anyway, during this discussion, I think the decision is right. I think we need to be transparent, and people need to come and express their opinion, and we need to have that methodology very clear to everyone, because it's not clear to me. And I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm sure there's some citizens that feel the same way about how much it's going to cost them. And that's what I heard today. So everybody needs to know before we make a decision what it's going to cost them. and that's where I'm at.
Brian?
Thanks. Maybe I wasn't clear the first time around. Everyone up here will take action to fund public safety, Valerie. I'm not saying don't take action. I'm not saying to defund the police. I'm not saying anything like that. Well, you're saying a leader would act and the leader would go ahead and move down this road without hearing from the public on the options available to them. They don't even know what the options available to them are. They don't know that a sales tax would be better for most people in this community financially. They don't know that a utility fee is more burdensome for middle and low income people than it is for high income people. That solution is better for higher income people. Sales tax is better for lower income people. 98% of people in town don't understand that right now. And you want to push forward with a fee where grandma in her little cottage is paying the same as the millionaire up on the hill when it's much harder for her. That is the situation. Every house is going to be paying the same. Every house is going to be paying the same amount whether you're on welfare or whether you make $1 million a year. It's very inequitable. Other options are more equitable. We have not discussed those options and we have not vetted them fully, and we are not out of time. We have almost an entire year before we have to have this funding source in place. We've had discussions about looking at doing a survey. It's my understanding from what staff says that we can get that survey done and we can get results and still have enough time to implement a solution without a funding gap. So that's the situation. And the public, I would like to hear from the public. I would like to not be the kind of leader that shoves something down their throat and say, you pay this no matter what, no matter how much money you make. I would like to give them a little bit of a say in the matter. So that's where I'm at.
Rob?
So I hear Valerie's frustration and also her desire to act in a way that she feels a leader would act. The question that the whole time you were talking, Valerie, I have to say, you're going to go out and sell it. It's a zero, we're funding it at a $0 rate today. What are you going to sell? So, there's really nothing that you're going to go out and adamantly as a leader, march forward and say, yes, we made a move and we're funding it at $0. What do you think of that? Is that what a leader does? Not really. So we're still obviously in the discussion phase because you don't have anything you can go out and sell. Although I'm sure you will when we have something. So I don't know that, we clearly do have a deadline, and I believe it's, next June, where this levy runs out, and we're going to know this November whether the levy passes or fails. So I don't know that it has to be, I don't know that by looking for more information tonight, that actually slows us down at all as far as what we're going to need, especially since we are not filling in the dollar amount tonight. It's more of a symbolic, quite frankly, more of a symbolic move tonight than anything else to basically say that one way or another, the council is going to fund public safety. That's what we'd be doing tonight. As far as actually concretely taking action and something that you could go out and sell, that's not even what we're deciding on tonight. So, I have a little trouble listening to such strong talk when it really doesn't line up with what we even had before us tonight. I agree with Brian that it would be good to have more information. There's other funding mechanisms that we haven't given a lot of talk, haven't given a lot of discussion to. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of harm in passing this tonight, especially since it has a $0 amount, which really doesn't show anyone anything, and it doesn't give us anything to go out and sell, except that maybe it gives people a little more confidence that the council is willing to act when necessary, which I think we're all in agreement we are willing to act. I don't know that it has to be done tonight because we're not even choosing a dollar amount that we're going to go out and have intelligent discussions about.
DJ?
I am similarly uncomfortable with adopting it this evening. There's clear uncertainty in council at this point. the matrix and how that plays in, how much will people be paying. I'm not certain of this two-pronged approach with the levy and the utility fee. Based on the conversation that I've had with the constituency, I'm here to represent them, and they are uncertain as well. Another reason I'm not comfortable with this is I don't necessarily agree with the extrapolated growth and the numbers that we need to reach for the next 5 years in public safety. Also, for the reasons that Rob just mentioned, we are not in a time crunch right now to establish this fee. I'm not poised to adopt this ordinance tonight. We have time. It's now written very clearly, and I hope that that can mitigate some of the uncertainty in the community.
Valerie?
Well, I agree, Rob, and you're right, I am passionate about it, and it's hard for me. I'm not a person who holds my passions inside very well. But I will say that you're right, we're just putting that down. It's zero. We're not saying what it's going to be. But I do think it's important that we do it, because if we are going to do something, it would behoove us to do something sooner than later, because we are currently in a crunch. I feel the time pressure, because I also know what it takes to run a campaign, because I have in the past been out there running campaigns, and I know that those are long, arduous ordeals where you need to get the support and you need to get out there and educate people. And I think the sooner that you get out there and do that, the better you are, the better chance you have. And I think, especially with this levy coming up, I think it's a clear point that we're saying that we know the levy is not enough. And so we know that something else is going to happen. And so I think that's a message that needs to get out there ahead of time if we're going to truly be transparent, is that we're no longer dealing with just permanent taxes and a levy to get the service that is necessary. And at some point down the road, you're right, need to have the discussion about the level of service. What is the level of service that people out there want? Is it the service we have now, or do they want more service than we have now? Because with the service now, we have a permanent tax rate and we have a levy that that is up to $8 million short. So if you're talking cuts down the road, you're talking some pretty serious cuts. And so I think in order to be transparent, your best bet is to say, yes, we understand we are going to need to do something. We're basically putting this on the table at zero because we have a lot of discussion moving forward. But yes, we need more than the levy to go forward.
Brian?
My issue with approving it tonight is it's in a way it's tacit approval, and it's kind of moving us down that road prematurely when we don't know what's going to happen in November. We haven't gotten any survey results yet, so I feel it's premature to go down that road right now. I would like a couple of these other milestones to come before we implement this. It's on the shelf, it's written, we don't have to write it again. It's, when the time comes to if and when we need to implement this, we can make that move. I don't think it has to happen tonight. I would like to see where a couple of these other chips fall with regards to November and with regards to what the public has to say about the options. And the time crunch is not as critical as some might think. We do have a little bit of time to work through this and see where those pieces of information come out. And that doesn't mean that anyone up here is willing to let there be any sort of lapse or decrease in service for public safety. That's just getting all the information so we can make the best decision possible. So I'm going to go ahead and try to move this to, I guess, table the discussion on this until we see the results of the November election.
Is there a second? Seconded by Rob. Discussion? Joel?
We've had several elections dealing with the sales tax specifically that went down overwhelmingly. To have a sales tax within the city right now and not have it in the county leads to...
We're just discussing the motion to table it.
To have a survey done on the sales tax versus the water bill, I think we're past that point right in this wise. Now, I know that I personally don't pay my fair share of public safety funding. And the reason I don't is I've owned my house for 40 years. It's increased in value about 3% each year. And so the appraised value by the county of my house is much less than the market value. I will now pay the same as somebody who builds a brand new house. I will pay my fair share under that. Everybody that's in low-income housing, they don't pay this water bill. So the methodology, I think, is appropriate, that it should be on the water bill, and I will not change that position. And then maybe I'll vote it or not, but anyway, I think we previously voted on it at a previous council meeting that that's what we were going to do, and we haven't had a vote that overturned that. And as we move forward, the methodology, I think we need to be a little more transparent than what we are now, and get on with it. I think it's that simple.
Okay, the motion was to table the discussion, so discussion on the motion. Vanessa.
In terms of tabling it until we hear back from the November election, JC, can you talk about how long it would take to implement a utility fee?
Yeah, it's going to take staff about 90 days to build out once we have an approved structure. So if there is no structure, I'm not going to necessarily use staff resources to build and test something, because you may change it and then we've done 3 months of work to do nothing.
Any further discussion? All right, Brian made the motion to table the discussion until after the November election. How do you vote?
Yes.
Val?
No.
Joel?
No.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
No.
Valerie? Vanessa?
No.
DJ?
Yes.
All right, I think we had the motion failed 3-4. Is that what you had? Okay. So we'll continue the discussion tonight. Valerie?
I'm just going to once again say that you'll notice in here that from now, they're figuring they'll have it together by October, which is kind of along the same thing as having it in place. It's a zero. It's a zero because I agree totally that there are some things that we need to have a discussion about. But I think that by just even doing it and having something tonight, with that, it will build the discussion. It will allow for the transparency that needs to happen out there up front about the needs of public safety. I mean, obviously, I'm passionate about the years that I spent trying to get money for public safety and the importance of public safety. And, I can't hide that passion. So, but taking that all back, I still feel that you're being more transparent by being honest and saying we can't fund public safety without something else. And this is what makes the most sense. Will we work out the bugs between, do we use that transportation fee? Is that exactly what we want to do? How much could it be? We did talk about the ladder approach, doing it in a ladder form, because we know that we're going for a 5-year levy so that it ladders along with it. We talked about all those things, and yes, we can retalk those, but I think laying the groundwork, that this is the appropriate time to lay the groundwork for a zero. And with that, I am going to make a motion. How about that? Where's my page, my cheat sheet? I am going to move to, is it on here or is it in here? Excuse the, I got to check it out here. 43. Yeah, thank you. I move to amend the Grants Pass Municipal Code by adding Chapter 8.90, Public Safety Utility Fee, and have it read by title only, first reading.
Seconded by Rick. Discussion on the motion. Vanessa?
I think it's important that we get the infrastructure in place this evening for this in the event that we do choose to move forward in the future with implementing an actual rate amount. We know that we are extremely limited in the different sources that we have to raise for public safety. Unfortunately, our expenditures for police, fire, and dispatch services have not matched revenue since 2015. So this is a long overdue decision. There are a couple options. There's the levy, there is a sales tax, there's a food and beverage tax, and there's a utility rate. I am in agreement that we need a survey to the community on how we want to fill that gap in the event that the levy passes. I don't think it's mutually exclusive passing this ordinance this evening and also moving forward with the levy. I can appreciate all of the voices that we've heard that that any new fee will be burdensome to members of our community. I understand that to be absolutely true. The crunch of modern society is real, and the world is very expensive, unfortunately. Police and fire, however, is a necessary service that we have to prioritize as a city council. I think the survey, I would really encourage the council to get on board with pushing out a survey to the community and asking them how they would like to fund that gap when the levy passes, and so that they can make an informed decision to get back to us. But this evening, this really is just a placeholder in getting the infrastructure in place.
Joel?
I would respectfully request that Valerie consider an amendment to her motion, and that it would involve the motion as stated with the methodology to be having a public meeting for transparency in the future before we implement that. And then if we need to have any minor adjustments to the implementation of it with the transportation fee, that we could consider that at that time. So in the interest of transparency as we move forward and having public comment, the one thing I think it's important is that people know what it's going to cost them before we adopt it. And at that public meeting, I would like at least to have an estimate of what the homeowners would be having, what the different business categories would be having, what categories they're in, and so they can give us adequate input.
It will already happen. There'll need to be another meeting to establish the fees. So this just establishes the
Placeholder in the code.
template, I guess, of the structure, but to actually change the fee from 0 to whatever would require another council decision.
So then, Sarah, the one thing that I understand what you said, and I appreciate that. The way the motion is read now is the methodology seems like it's being voted on.
That is what's being voted on, is
Including
adopting the
as the
transportation fee schedule with the categories of businesses and residences as established.
And then that would forego any minor adjustments to that transportation fee.
Well, things can always
That
be changed.
methodology.
Things can always be changed, but it is adopting the methodology.
So
JC.
I will, this has to be legally defensible to establish as a utility fee. And so if you change the structure in which you are doing the methodology and you are creating a brand new rate, and so you're changing the structure, and ergo, I'm not comfortable in potentially putting that out as legally defensible. If you're going to pick and choose rates for certain classifications, it needs to go through its own rate schedule development than if you're going to try and change the classification, what everybody pays.
Well, at a minimum, people need to know what they're going to pay and what classification they're in and what the implications are. And before I vote on it, I need to know that too.
So I think just to clarify, the classifications are already established as part of the existing transportation fee. So the classifications you would be changing for another already established fee, but the dollar amounts for Class A, Class B, Class C are not just defined tonight. You're establishing $0 amount. So whether you 5 or 50 or whatever the dollar amount would be in the future would be a council decision. But tonight you are establishing the structure, and JC is saying that he does not want to have staff spend time setting up this plan if that's not something that's going to be used in the future. So I guess I would caution you to, things can be changed in the future, but if you know now that you don't like it, don't support it, would be my caution there. But I think DJ was next.
So in my opinion, for all intents and purposes, this is a near certain point of no return for a utility fee in this community. That's all I have to say about that.
Brian, then Val.
Yeah, adding this to the comprehensive fee schedule with $0 amount, you know, the way we all know government works, if there's a fee with a $0 amount, the vacuum will pull that number out of zero very quickly. The timeline does not require us to do this tonight. It's clear that we have enough time to not have a break or a funding gap break and still wait until later to implement this. So there is no push to need to do this tonight, and it's definitely a precedent that I'm not comfortable setting.
Valerie.
Well, once again, I agree. I couldn't agree more that we need to have a public forum. I couldn't agree more. But that's where we're at. We need to get to the public, and we need to have that conversation. And we keep kicking it around. Well, maybe we'll do that. Well, maybe we'll do this. Well, maybe we'll do that. I think, and we've talked about this nexus for a long time, this is the one that most meets the needs and divides it the way that public service is actually utilized. Because when we went through the whole nexus, we looked at, you know, how are the services spread out through public safety? And at looking at it, is it per account? Is it by the water, on the size of the water pipes, or transportation, which is the amount of business and amount of people coming in and out of the business? It only makes sense that the number of people coming in and out of a business is going to up the amount of needs for public safety. And so that's why keeping the nexus there with the transportation fee makes the most sense. So yes, I believe that we've got the right idea after 15 meetings. I believe that we need to set the state at zero, and yes, I think we need to acknowledge that we do need to deal with the crisis in public safety, and we need to have public forums. So I understand what you're saying, and you know, we all need to understand it, but once we set it, we can understand it, we can have a public forum and have people come in and ask those questions, and we can continue to move forward and solve the crisis that we're in soon. So I, once again, am going to keep the motion that I feel states where we're at, how we need to move forward, how we need to be transparent, and start to solve our problem.
Rick, and then Joel, and then Rob.
I will be in favor of the motion that's on the table. The jail fee was imposed at one point, and I don't remember hearing much opposition to that at that time. And I think it's necessary to move forward and set up the framework. Thank you.
Joel.
So I hear everybody's guarantee that we're going to have public input, we're going to be open, we're going to look at the methodology, and I trust the people up here. So I will support your motion unamended, knowing that we're going to follow through on our promises.
Rob.
So when we talk about approving this tonight and then having public forums, what would we be having a public forum on? I mean, we know that there's a gap. We pretty much, whether the levy passes or fails, we know the gap either way. We've all pretty much committed to not allowing public safety to diminish, not diminishing the number of firefighters or police officers. What would the forums be on exactly? If we've already decided the methodology, we've already decided the dollar amount that we're going to need. Valerie, when you say there's going to be forums, what will we be discussing?
Is it okay if I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So in my mind, the public forum would be a open meeting where people would know what category they fit in if they have a business. They would know if at different dollar amounts what the bill would be. And they could give us feedback, and if there was any minor tweaks to the forum, and I see what CJ said about there's some risk associated with that, so we need to be aware of that. But we need to be open with this, especially if it's not going for a public vote. And people need to understand where they're at and what's going on, and I need to pay my fair share. So.
Valerie.
And it's the beginning of a true education. I know that the reality of it is, until something is there and they see it's really going to happen, then people are going to show up at the door because they want to know. So that's my idea, is they'll show up when they know we passed the zero and we're going to fill it in to say, what does that mean to me? And that's our job, to say, this is what it's going to mean to you, and this is how we got here, and this is why we're here. And I want them here. I want them looking in the eyeball so I can tell them, this is how we got here, this is where we're at, and this is why we need this money, and this is why we're going to move forward. And it's got to start. It's got to start now, and that's my feeling very strongly.
Rob?
So, is it possible to have a public forum and tell people what it's going to cost them before we know whether the levy is passed or failed? It is. How is that possible? We don't know what the dollar need is.
We know the total amount of money that we need for public safety. We know exactly how much money the permanent property tax brings in. We know how much the levy brings in. We know how much we need. So you're right. We can have the discussion to say, this is what we need to run public safety. Now, we can go two-pronged, and we can have a levy, and we can have this and kind of stretch it out. Or, if you don't pass the levy, basically, this is what's going to happen. And I hate to say that, but it is a reality, because we need what we need to have a functioning public safety. And so, yes, to me, it's that simple. But you got to start getting people to understand where we are and how we got here. And we haven't done a very good job of that.
Any further discussion? Brian?
So a forum would essentially just be the second step of implementing a utility fee. It wouldn't be any sort of choice at all. It would just be saying, this is what we're going to do. Here's how much you're going to pay. Have a nice night. So I don't know what kind of forum that is, but if we're going to do that, why don't we just implement the whole thing tonight? I mean, it seems kind of pointless.
Joel?
So government needs to be open, and they need to show their intent. And if there's a big uprising or whatever, we haven't made that decision yet. So that's what the forum's about. You have two methods of analysis. You have inductive and deductive. And inductive, you have the hypothesis. This is what we plan on doing. This is what it's going to cost you. Give us feedback. And it's knowledgeable stuff, and then you make adjustments from there if you need to. The other thing is saying, I don't know what to do. Everything's on the table. What do you think? And we've been there for a long time. And so this is just going down the funnel and narrowing our decision space and doing it in a transparent and professional manner.
All right. Y'all are having a good discussion here about the forum, but what the motion on the table is to amend the code and add in Chapter 8.9, Public Safety Utility Fee. Is there further discussion? Vanessa?
Yes, I am going to drag this on. I think the main concern that we've heard from counselors that have concern about the methodology is equitability. And from the different known methodologies, this has the clearest equitability against residential and commercial. For water meter size in comparison, the revenue percentages are 84 residential and 15 commercial. An additional unit charge is 91 residential and 8% commercial, versus the methodology this evening for transportation is 60 residential and 39 commercial. So in comparison of the different nexuses, this is the most equitable when considering a utility fee, and we only have so many funding options to choose from. I understand that this is an uncomfortable decision, whether it's a sales tax, whether it's a food and beverage tax, whether it's a $3.50 levy in May of 2024. They are all uncomfortable asks, but I think that they're necessary. So I do support moving forward with the framework this evening.
Is there any further discussion? All right. Val made the motion as written here in page 44 to amend the Grants Pass Municipal Code by adding Chapter 8.9 Public Safety Utility Fee. Have it read by title only, first reading. Valerie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
No.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
No.
Brian?
Nope.
Motion passes 4-3. All right.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending Grants Pass Municipal Code by adding Chapter 8.90 Public Safety Fee, Utility Fee.
All right, thank you. That was not unanimous, so we'll have a second reading on another date. And let's move on to item C regarding the multi-purpose fire apparatus. Fire Chief.
Sorry.
Is your mic on?
Is it on now? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight seeking your approval for replacement of one of our frontline engines. As you know, just about a year ago exactly, we were before you requesting to replace one of our frontline engines. Since that time, we have seen the cost of fire engines drastically increase. We have seen the build time for a new engine to be built drastically increase. So we've been looking at what other options are out there and possibilities that we could go forward with the replacement of this engine. So that's what I'm bringing for you tonight. So this relates to the council's goals by enhancing community safety. It maintains the necessary public safety infrastructure. You're providing cooperative shared leadership involving council staff and the community, ensure efficiency and effectiveness in city operations. So in 2008, the city purchased 3 engines for frontline response. This was back when we got the bond and we built the 2 fire stations, and we also bought 3 fire engines all at the same time. The standard for the life expectancy of a frontline engine through the National Fire Protection Association is 10 to 12 years. Through that also is the life expectancy of a fire engine is to be 25 years total. In 2019, the first of the 3 frontline engines was replaced, and the 2 remaining frontline engines are at 15 years. So we're already at 15 with the 2 remaining. So in 2019, we replaced the first frontline engine, which is currently our 7307. It's a Pierce Impel. It cost us about $626,000. It was ordered in December of 2018 and delivered in September 2019. It took about 10 months to build that engine, and when it was replaced, it was 11 years old. So last year, just before I got here, we ordered a second frontline engine, and that's for 7308. It's currently in the building phase. That's also a Pierce Impel, and it cost us $814,000. The order was placed in August of 22. Delivery was expected to be in November of 24, and now it's been extended out into March of 25. So basically 32 months to build the same engine that we bought that took 10 months to build. The engine age, once we replace that engine, is going to be 17 years of age. So what I'm coming for you tonight is to replace the 3rd engine. And this one, we're looking at a smaller engine. We're looking at trying to keep the costs as close as we can to something reasonable. So we're looking at a Pierce Enforcer that's going to cost about $819,000. If we place the order right now, the delivery date is expected to be July of 2026, which is 34 to 38 months for the build of that engine. The engine age, once we get this one replaced, will be 18 years. So the Pierce Enforcer is what they call a Build My Pierce build-up versus the Pierce Impel, which we're currently operating, is a smaller engine. Its length is about 3 feet shorter. Its height's about 1 feet less. The cost savings, though, that we can count for is about $250,000. And also, we can expect that we're going to get this engine in a little bit quicker delivery time frame. And the costs are lower because there are certain aspects of the engine that are constant. They're standard. They're building a certain number of these engines this way, and you don't get a lot of options. You're basically buying a cookie cutter approach to a fire engine. The delivery time for the current engine was 33, for this engine will be 33 to 36 months. If we went with the Impel, we'd be more like five years for the build. That's how far all this is starting to go and grow. We do have a purchase contract process through Sourcewell, which would eliminate any of the RFP and the bidding processes. It's a contracted, approved process through the state of Oregon and through our city purchasing processes. So why do we want to purchase this right now? I know this kind of came in a little bit out of left field on you because we hadn't really talked a lot about new engines, but what we came across while we were looking at options is that there's this option to purchase this engine right now. There's 124 of them being built. There's currently 40 remaining out of that 124. They're very popular. Everybody's trying to buy them. And that was August 7th, so that number's probably reduced down a little bit since we've learned of the last count. Again, the Enforcer that we're looking at is going to cost us about $250 less than the Impel. We're getting this engine to avoid some of the emission requirements that are getting put in place in the next year, which could mean another $100,000 on the engine that we just purchased, and it's going to mean another $40,000 on this engine if we wait another couple months. The new engines are going to have an emission requirement on the diesel engine that raises the cost of that engine alone by $40,000. Again, the delivery time, we could get this thing in roughly 3 years, and the consortium purchasing does help us with the contracting and expedient process of buying the engine. We do have the funds available in our vehicle replacement funds right now. They're sitting there available to us to make this purchase. So we just simply have to be able to get your approval and sign the contract. So the proposal price is $931,192. We're getting some reductions in that cost through some of the different incentives that are available through Pierce and through a 100% prepayment, basically paying for the engine up front. We can pretty much get that cost down over $100,000 with all those incentives. So again, the funds are currently in the apparatus replacement account, and we're down to probably below 40 units available at this time. So the call to action is council's discretion. We recommend that you approve the resolution, and there are alternatives for you. So I'm open to questions now.
Thanks, Chief. DJ, go ahead.
Sure. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the decision for the Enforcer rather the Impel? From what I heard you say was it has some cost savings there, and you can actually get your hands on the machine in a quicker time frame.
Yeah, those are the two key factors. As I mentioned, they call it a build my Pierce, so you kind of follow their exact specs. You don't have a lot of options to go in there and make changes or change it more to some of the things you might prefer on the engine, so that makes the build time much faster. Production time picks way up. We're looking at a smaller engine. With this, we can reduce down some of the complement we carry right now on our engines. The two engines that we've just purchased before this one are called a rescue type component. So you can carry all your rescue equipment, all your firefighting equipment. This one will be primarily down to our mission essential type of equipment, and then we rely on these other engines bringing rescue equipment and things of that nature to the call. It is a smaller engine, so we do expect it's going to have more accessibilities into some of the narrow areas. Our plan would be to put it out at Redwood, where there may be a little bit narrower approaches into some of those residential areas. So we think it'd be a good fit for that area.
Sure, great. Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear is when you weigh that against the needs of the department.
Absolutely.
Thank you for elaborating.
Yes.
Joel.
So I assume that the equipment replacement fund doesn't have funds to replace all equipment at the end of their expected life, correct? Because during the budget cuts, we looked at those things.
Yes, well, we did cut $400,000 in our allocation to that fund this year.
Correct.
So this
Correct,
budget year,
correct.
that was reduced.
And we make that, well, we should make that contribution every year, and we didn't do that this year.
That's correct.
Okay, so of the equipment that are approaching their end life, is this the highest priority?
Yes, it is, because again, this is one of those three that we purchased back in 2008, so we need to finish up that frontline transition.
Okay.
We have been doing a good job of staggering these engines so that when we replace them in the future, they're not all going to come again in 1 year. Unfortunately, this is a much quicker turnaround on this particular engine just because of these opportunities we have right now with the funding.
Well, and then my understanding is we don't get this engine delivered until 3 years from now.
That is correct.
And how old will it be then?
The one that it's replacing will be 18 years old.
Yeah, okay. So if I understand, let me know if I understand it correctly. Our equipment replacement fund, we didn't fund this year. We need to catch up on that, and that portrays to our previous discussion. And we do have the cash on hand for some equipment, and this is the highest priority piece of equipment that we need.
Yes, it is.
So why wouldn't we do that?
That's why I'm here, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Chief. Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this? All right, close public comment. Brian?
I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a replacement fire apparatus for the fire rescue department.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Brian, you made the motion to go ahead with the purchase. How do you vote?
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, next up we have an appointment for our Bikeways and Walkways Committee. We have one applicant to consider here. There's one opening, one applicant. The committee recommended. The committee unanimously agreed to appoint Terry Haugen to be a member of the committee. They thought that his background in public administration would provide a valuable viewpoint to the city and thought his ideals were congruent with committee goals. So with that, I think we can probably skip the exercise tonight, and Valerie, go ahead.
Yes, I will make a motion to appoint Terry Haugen to the Bikeways and Walkways Committee.
Seconded by Joel. Any discussion on that? All right, Valerie, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, next up is our public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on items not related to a public hearing or council action item for the council. The intent is to provide information that is pertinent to the city's jurisdiction. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the council as one body, not two individuals. At the conclusion of public comment, council will have an opportunity to respond. This meeting will proceed in an effective and courteous manner. Citizens and council members will be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free from slander, threats, or other personal attacks. Signs or placards, outbursts of applause, campaigning for public office, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. If you have a question regarding any government-provided service or a current city policy, please contact the city manager's office in an attempt to resolve the matter. And we have a number of people who have filled out cards tonight. Judy Ahrens.
Thank you. Judy Ahrens, resident of Josephine County. I just want to make an announcement on the public service tonight. We have a fantastic speaker. His name is Tom DeWeese. He travels all over the country, and he talks about home and property owner rights, limited government, all sorts of things to make us a better country and better people in it. So I think I gave each one of you, councilmen, you should have one in front of you, the flyer, okay. So it won't be this coming Saturday, it'll be the following Saturday at the fairgrounds from 3 to 6. and the last portion will be Q&A and everything. So I would just love to encourage everybody to come out, because I think the more we're informed about our rights, our property rights, et cetera, I think it makes for more informed citizens. So any of you can attend. I didn't give you folks one, but could I actually, Mayor, put a couple of these in the back there, because I have to leave to walk my dog. I'm at home and walk my dog right now. So could I put a few back there, and that would be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So thanks very much, and if you can make it, that would be awesome. Be very, very informative from Tom DeWeese. Thanks.
David Dapper.
Hi, David Dapper, city resident. We recently got some rules, buffer zones and whatnot, and things that are allowed and not allowed in the parks. And there's been like, I think, Officer Artov, I think he had 300 citations, and McGinnis 180 or something. They're getting citations written, but very few of the vagrants pay these fines. And I don't know if they turn into a warrant, like a traffic ticket would if you don't pay it, or if they can, people can be banned, lose their privilege of using the park until they catch up on their citations. Otherwise, what's the point in having rules? I mean, we have rules we follow or we lose our privileges. And it seems just a common sense to put a little bit of a stick to the carrot also. And, you know, make them respect the rules that are in the park, because a lot of them just don't care. They'll set up right, knowing right now they know where to be and where not to be, and a lot of them just don't care. So I think, you know, like either these citations turn to warrants at a point, or they lose the privilege of all city parks until they catch up on them. Anyway, thank you.
Dan and Sharon Carpenter.
Okay, this is Dan Carpenter. I apologize. I have some copies here. I didn't know there as many counselors. I apologize. I have 5 copies if anybody wants to have these or read along. And I'll try to make my comments brief. This is in reference to South Meadows subdivision, prestigious homes construction, and we're objecting to a 2-story ADU. My wife and I live at 1066 Southwest Arch Court in Grants Pass. Home developer Mike Masters of Prestigious Homes is developing residential homes to the west, that is down Naples off Arch Court. He informed us in April 2023 that he's planning to build a 2-story ADU right behind us, our fence line. We are very surprised for 2 reasons. Number one, most of the immediate area behind us is a wetland. However, developers consultant did not classify all the area behind us as wetland, even though there was water conveyance through the whole area. So we appealed to the Department of State Lands, to a wetland specialist, Lori Stevens, but she upheld the determination, even though the area, you know, has water running through there and meets all the wetland criteria. And I know because I was a professional hydrologist for over 30 years. And then what Mr. Masters has been doing now, or his company, he's created approximately 40 by 40 area where he's planning to build the ADU by rerouting a channel. He rerouted it into a 3-foot corrugated pipe with 2 concrete 90-degree force bends that divert the water around where he's going to build and then back into the wetland. I will say this water all is coming off of undeveloped area to the west and over toward Kokanee, which is Yonser's property, over to the west. There's a 5-acre piece over to the southwest. Okay.
Is that ready yet?
So what? The ADU was not included in the subdivision plan when the subdivision came up for review. There were 17 sites and that wasn't in there. Our concern is the ADU is a 2-story, which looks out of the character with the rest of the area of family residence. Of note, your website only shows single-story ADUs. More importantly, the structure could be within 5 feet of our fence, and ADU occupants would look down on our home and backyard. This is creepy, and it's a security risk, and we believe it will diminish our home value. GP planner Jason Mackey told us that building permits are non-reviewable generally non-reviewable by neighboring landowners. We did not, I'm sorry, I want to say a couple more things. We did not believe the city should allow a 2-story ADU, at least not in our backyard areas. We asked that no windows in the 2nd story look down on us. The developer could easily put windows on the 2nd story looking north or into the wetland conservation area. And one more thing, will say, Mr. Masters, he did stop us several weeks ago, and he basically said, if you don't back off, and I think he was referring to the wetland DSL, he says, and this is a quote, my wife is with me in the car, he says, if you don't back off, things will not go well with you and will blow up in your face. And we perceive that as a threat. Thank you.
Can you please give a copy of your letter, or all of them, to Karen, our city
Thank you.
clerk?
I
Thank you.
appreciate it, thank you.
Sandy Rourke.
Hi, my name is Sandy Rourke. I live in Grants Pass. I've never been a political person before. I've actually not a person who speaks in front of other people. But this is different. Because besides for my children and my grandchildren, my only thing I ever wanted really in my life was to live in the state of Oregon. It's been at a very young age, I knew I wanted to live here for the remainder of my life. To me, Oregon was one of the most beautiful states of all America, and the people who live here are some of the nicest people you ever meet in your life. 3 years ago, my dream came true. I was able to live here in this beautiful state. And not only was I going to be, not only that, but I'm walking distance from one of the most beautiful parks in Grants Pass. But this dream that I dreamt is not the same and has drastically changed in this state. Wrong has become right and right has become wrong. The residents of Grants Pass, including me, have seen this town quickly become one of the towns we see on the news. The ones who are breaking the laws, destroying the property and the towns and terrifying the residents are facing no consequences for their legal actions. There are felons, thieves, abusers, pedophiles, and murderers who are not being held accountable for the laws they are breaking daily. What I mean by being held accountable is these criminals are being arrested. The cops are doing their job. They are arresting them, but they are released back onto the streets. They are given fines to pay, and these fines that many people who have thousands of dollars of fines, and they're not going to pay a dime. They're not going to be held accountable for that. And one example that really has me upset is being the pedophile who stalked and followed a 17-year-old little girl and followed her to her house. And I'm a victim of sex offense. So to hear this is really hard. But I'm gonna get through this. He followed her and he took off her clothes and he stalked her. And she called the police. He was arrested. And after he was arrested, he pretended he couldn't speak and he pretended he couldn't walk anymore. So they let him right back out on the streets. Now he knows where she lives. So not only is she in danger, I don't have any children here, but my children will be in danger. I'm sure you guys have children. Your children are in danger. And now when other sex offenders hear that, they're just going to get a slap on the hand and there you go, you're up. You can have any child you want. That's not okay. Whew. But in this town, like I was saying, the right has turned to wrong, wrong has turned to right. And I don't know what happened, but I hope this can be fixed because I still want to live here. I love the states and I love this town. I love the people here. Oh. I don't know what happened, but please turn things back into right if we can. Thank you.
Gloria Christ?
Oh, well, thank you for calling on me. Again, what I said earlier today, I would really like the police to take a more proactive stance on protecting the people versus just blowing us off, especially as women. I've experienced this firsthand with calling the police and reporting my own kidnapping a few days after it happened and struggling with the stutters and everything that came with it. And knowing that I was basically mocked by the individual Deputy Alex Visalia and blown off because he was brought back to Grants Pass and taken from the Josephine County Police Department in Cave Junction. After 3 years of going through intensive counseling to get myself back together, I knew I had to revisit this, and I'm very, very grateful for the support from the church at Edgewater Christian Fellowship for helping me and loving on me and encouraging me to go back and talk to the police. And very grateful for who I do believe to be a Christian man, Deputy Bayard, who told me the report of what Visalia wrote. And it was very, very short. It wasn't the correct report whatsoever. And Deputy Bayard was very gracious And I had a stack of papers, mind you, over probably 60 papers of everything, text messages, everything. But he told me I can be seen as a perpetrator because there was no witness whatsoever, and because crazy people get to be crazy out here. And mind you, I'm not accustomed to living in a democratic state like this. I am used to having police join the community, lock arms, and be a part of the people. And I expect that here because I don't mind paying you, but I expect you to do your job. This isn't right. So I'm asking on you to please serve the people, to do what is right. Because I'm learning and I'm educating myself so I can learn how to better approach y'all and talk to y'all. You know, when I get pulled over, I don't listen to the police anymore when they say, pay this fine right now as quick as you can. I call my lawyer. And then, because I have a very good record, I call my lawyer because I know that the rumors in town might be true about what they say about y'all, that y'all are corrupt. And I don't want to believe that because I believe that it's getting better and I've seen it. I've started to see after these 3 years more people speaking out that there are more and more good men in blue doing what's right. And I would like to encourage y'all to keep doing that and to please be more proactive. And please start protecting the women more because we're getting hurt out here and that's not right. Thank you. God bless.
Mark Seligman is on the phone.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Mark Seligman, Selma, Oregon, Josephine County resident. I wanted to talk about the homeless issue. About a week ago, there was a 72-hour notice posted for a bunch of homeless people. Mark Collier sent me a note regarding people with disabilities who within 72 hours would be cited. Some had heart issues, some couldn't walk, yet the police were going to cite them. And the next step after citing is at some point confiscation of their properties. This all speaks to the homeless issue and how the city council, the only thing they're doing is they're letting the city manager and the attorney and the police chief take this whole issue, they hope, to the Supreme Court. This Supreme Court, if you're lucky enough to get it that far, would probably rule in your favor, which would mean the recriminalization of the homeless people. Now, if you built a shelter, then you wouldn't have these negative consequences, but you're not doing anything. You're just letting this play itself out so that the people who are for the homeless advocates can't do much, and the people who want the parks back don't get their parks back. So it's a lose-lose situation, what you're doing by doing nothing. Now, I wanted to say one thing. There are particular counselors, and I'm going to try to say this constructively. Counselors, you are our servants. You are not, we are not your servants. I've heard the tone of one or two counselors, particularly Valerie Lovelace. I really think you need a course in civics because the way you describe what you want...
Mark, you're not supposed to call out individual counselors, okay? Just talk to the group.
Okay, particular counselors, and they know who they are, they really need a course in civics. Now, the people will vote when they have a chance to vote on things. And it's really important if you want to better this city and you want to raise any kind of taxes or fees that you increase people's incomes. At that point, once you increase incomes, then you can talk about raising fees and anything else. But you're not at that point. So I live in this community, I work in this community, I know my customers, I know they're having a hard time. If counselors don't understand the financial problems that people have, you'll all be recalled if you do acts like you're proposing. You simply have to understand who you work for. I don't think the majority of you even get that. And I'm just speaking very bluntly and very plainly. I see the despair. I see what people go through. Luckily, I'm not going through that. Because if I was, I would be even more vocal.
Time,
so
Mark.
I expect you to be compassionate. Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else here who wanted to speak during public comment tonight? Please step forward and state your name. Let us know whether or not you're in the city limits.
My name is Ian Cox. I am in the city limits, about 8 minutes from here, a walk. Poverty is a mindset. And unfortunately, people around here are stuck in that mindset. If you look at the national average of what the minimum wage is across the nation, we are in one of the higher paying areas. The biggest complaint I hear from people is that the police don't show up. I wouldn't show up either if I wasn't being paid properly, or if my people aren't being paid enough. If I can't get enough people to show up, how are they going to show up? We have to pay for these services. There's no question about it. I don't think you should vote for, do you want to pay for it? I think you should vote for, how are you going to pay for it?
Dale Aldridge, City of Grants Pass. I'm getting to sound like a broken record. The parking lots are all full. The rules that are set up aren't being followed because there's no consequences. There's no consequences. Go to any park, you find tons of cars. And they play a shuffle game. They move from park to park, you know, place to place, and it ain't getting solved at all. To have the idea that a church is going to take over that kind of situation ain't going to happen. The people that are in the park have no rules. They get away with everything. We're having to run people. We're right next to West Riverside, and we're having to run people off every morning, sleeping on our front porch, trying to use our bathrooms that are locked up. And luckily I don't got to body block them to keep them anymore. They go and they realize they can't get in. They're living in that parking lot, in the Frog parking lot. There's 5, 6 cars there every day, and they're scoping out the other cars. Watching them go from car to car, see if they can break in and see if they can steal. Watching people walk from Tetchy Park with handfuls of stuff that I know is stolen. Our crime is out of control in this town, and the cops can't do it if you don't start doing something like putting them somewhere else. I had my grandson at Riverside Park the other day, and I was appalled by a lady that had her kids there, walked up towards the gazebo and started smoking pot. Stunk the whole playground up. Now, I yelled, asked him to stop. She looked at me like, so what? And then I had a guy behind me. He owns a store in town. It's legal to smoke in the park. No, it's not. The rules are not being put out to the people that you cannot smoke in the park. I don't want my kids smelling that stuff. I'm a card carrier, if you can believe that, for my back. But I'm not going to smoke it in the park. And that gazebo over there, on a good windy day, the whole park's full of pot. And they're smoking every day out there. And I know you can't cover everything. 45 minutes later, I had to leave. There was no other people there. I'm looking at the parks. There's like 9 tents at Baker Park. There's signs saying no camping. There is no place to camp there. And they got Riverside property. Look at Riverside Park. There's like 6 or 7 tents there right on the river. I just bought a condo, and that's privileged property. Why are they getting that? Back them off of the river. Get them into something decent. The idea that the churches are going to take over these parking spots ain't going to happen. Come on, let's be real. I'm going to take my notes real quick, but I forgot something. What can I say? It ain't safe to be in any of the parks. I wish we'd every week come up with a description of how many citations were written, what was actually done, and what we can do to, how many people died this last week or month.
Anybody else for public comment?
Catherine Hamilton County. This is from the Jackson County, Oregon.org, their site. Commissioners proclaim Jackson County call for the repeal of provisions enacted pursuant to Oregon Ballot Measure 110. I can't speak for everybody, but I don't know of anybody that I've ever spoken to that has thought 110 has worked. Or if it was a good idea. It sucks. It's destroying the state. It's destroying people. People are coming from out of state just so they can do drugs in Oregon. How does this make sense? You guys want more money for the police department, which is absolutely needed. Maybe if we got some of these scum buckets to go back to their states, the officers wouldn't have to bust their booties like they are. Maybe then we could concentrate on some of the legit homeless people who have their heart conditions, diabetes, and whatever else these people are. That sounds horrible. I'm not trying to say it that way. I'm upset, because we all are upset. But bottom line with you folks tonight, what I want to rant about is that I would really like to see, if Jackson County's trying, let's get Southern Oregon in solidarity. Let's send a letter to the state, to Portland or Salem or wherever she is, and say that we're not happy about this. We want it to be changed. Now, if that's just me, then you guys are going to ignore me, and I get it, and I expect that. But I would like it to be considered. A chain letter, a group letter, whatever you guys got to do. You guys are the politicians, we're not. We're asking for help. So we don't see straps to tie off armbands in the street or next to businesses. We don't want to see caps of syringes. We see the caps. Where are the syringes? Where are the needles? But we see caps. We see a lot of syringes and needles too. But can we get some of this? Can we do something? Putting limitations on how close to sidewalks, yeah, that's great. There's 11 in Fruitdale Park today. I spoke to a gentleman this evening. He's pulling his son out of Fruitdale Elementary School because of the park situation. That's not going to help the school. So anyhow, that's my rant for the evening. Thank you for letting me rant.
All right, I think we're done with public comment for tonight. Oh, okay, nope, we're not done. All right.
Rika Brown, Grants Pass. I want to thank you for passing item B. Now we know where we stand. And you have really given my campaign a big boost. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Gambucci. I'm a city resident. A lot of things have been talked about the last few months. Tonight, it's a big common denominator here. It's the people who don't want to follow the rules, don't want to follow instructions, don't want to do anything except for do things that it's going to benefit themselves. We're asking for more money for police and the fire department. They're doing a great job. I just don't think all my tax-paying money and everybody else's tax-paying money should constantly go to the same common people that are requesting this money all the time, that all the resources are going to. We need this for them, we need this for them, this is here, this and this. We got to stop enabling this. We got to stop, we wouldn't need all these funds going to the police and fire department if this element wasn't here. If we need to put people, or get them help, I should say, if there's, mental problems with them. My son has got a problem. I totally understand that. He's seeking help. We're getting him help. But to have just an element on the street just to do whatever they want and have no consequences, that's not right. We need to either give them an option. Either you seek help or you move on. That there shouldn't be a third option of I'm going to do whatever I want and demand more tax-paying money to go to myself for doing all this stuff. There's got to be consequences. You guys said you wanted to police the behavior. I've driven all over the last 2 weeks. I've had some time off. Decided to go to all the different parks, walk around town, walk around all these different places. It's not just our parks. It's the city streets. It's downtown. There's people. I don't know how many times I saw people passed out on the ground, stuff everywhere. You have to literally walk into the street to go around them. There's throw up human waste, garbage everywhere. And we're just, no big deal. Let's just move on and don't even look at it. It's like that shouldn't be a thing. The tax-paying money that you're supposed to get, it's supposed to be the city of Grants Pass here. It's a tourist town. Tourists aren't going to come. I'm not going to promote people to come to this city. Why would I? So they could be harassed and potentially robbed or hurt or anything else? We shouldn't have to be harassed. Like go to our restaurants and you can't even get to the door. You're being harassed to get in. It's not right.
We need to come up with a solution. There should, like I said, two options. Either you follow along like I do and everybody else has to as a tax-paying part of the community, or you get help, or you move on. That should be our option. There shouldn't be a third. You know, like Lydia had said, we should write letters. You as the mayor, you say you don't have anything you can do. You have a lot of pull. You could say, let's, everybody in the whole community and everywhere write letters to whoever. We all collect them here. You can deliver them, hand deliver them to whoever and say, hey, we're done with this. Let's make a difference. All my people, my constituents that supposedly voted you in, want a difference. You do and can make a difference. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak tonight? All right. Council, did anyone want to follow up? Valerie?
Well, I just say, please come and keep ranting. I get it. I read the police reports. I also drive down to the parks. I know how our police officers are out citing people all the time. Good question is, what does happen when they get to the courts? And I don't know where the courts are in terms of, the turnaround at the courts. We know in the past we've had issues with that, and I don't know where we are right now, but that is an issue. And I agree, write letters to Tina Kotek. I will say that I do know that Jackson County commissioners are writing something, it's rules about 110. Well, our Josephine County commissioners are also, and I think they are probably going to ask, or at some point in time, ask the council to go along and go with them. So that movement is starting to happen from different areas where people are really tired of Measure 110. So there are things that are, I think, going behind the scenes, but the more letters you can write to Governor Brown, I know it's in the Courier, her address is in the Courier, that's what we need to do.
Anybody else? Brian?
I just wanted to follow along with part of that, just to kind of ask the chief about what Mr. Dapper said with regards to people getting cited. How does that play out after multiple citations?
If somebody receives a citation, 2 citations within a year in our parks, they are trespassed from that park for 30 days. If they return to that park within that 30-day period, they're arrested for criminal trespass. If they are just an individual person that receives a citation, 1 citation, it's a violation, it's not a criminal citation, and it's never an arrestable offense.
Thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, I'd just like to briefly comment, because, thinking about last meeting with Mike Slaughtermaker's really horrific situation, and then what David Dapper's mentioning tonight. Back in roughly 2012, before the jail levy, downtown, I wouldn't necessarily call them homeless, they may have been, but they were definitely vagrants. It was really horrific. There was sometimes bands of 10 or 20 men at a time, causing a lot of disturbance. And they were very threatening, and they fought amongst themselves, but they also were very threatening to customers. The city, I'm not sure of the chronology, I can't quite remember, but may have been after the jail levy or after the city came up with $1 million to rent jail beds. They began to move them out of the downtown. And what ended up happening is they basically moved down the railroad tracks, and I used to own property out on I had several properties on Eastern Avenue. And as the vagrants were moved out of the downtown on down the tracks to the Eastern and Western Avenue areas, those areas got really bad. I mean, cars started getting burned, there was house break-ins, things that never happened in that neighborhood before. And I sold my properties in that neighborhood. Then we got a situation where we've cleared some of them out of the park, and then we've got them moving into more frequently into Mike Slaughtermaker's neighborhood, and that whole situation. So it becomes a game of whack-a-mole, and it's unfortunate, and I don't have an answer, but just moving them out of the parks without having a constructive place to move them to doesn't solve a problem. I mean, it just moves the problem. Many might say that we need some kind of shelter or a navigation center that's embedded within a shelter. We've got people in our public who every week now have been calling for having some kind of shelter or urban campground. We've got sometimes angry people that say, hell no, do not do a shelter or an urban campground, don't do it. We've got other people that say, absolutely, that's what we need. So, you know, there's no for sure correct answer, but I will tell you that just moving them out of the park is just creating problems in other areas. Moving them out of the downtown is creating problems in other areas. I'm a believer, and I've been vocal about it, that we need some kind of shelter with a navigation center embedded in it. I know that the mayor has been a proponent of that as well. Other people hold that against her. And then we've got people who want the problem solved but have no answer. So I still believe that we need some kind of navigation center embedded within a shelter, and that will move some of the people, not many, but some out of the park, move some of them into the treatment that they might need. It will allow case management to decide who might benefit from a hand up versus who would just squander it. And but that's, in my opinion, that's where the public should be pushing. We should be pushing for some place to move some of the homeless people who really want help, and that would be a shelter with a navigation center.
Joel?
Everybody, anyway, I hope everybody is situationally aware of what's going on. I was down in Riverside Park. There was a guy with fentanyl and heroin on the picnic table there at the shelter, shooting up, next to a city maintenance worker who was a young kid. And I mentioned to him, please wear your gloves. And the other guy was oblivious. I probably should have called you, Chief. I know there's millions of those going on at the same time with drug paraphernalia, and I know there's no penalty. There's a committee on substance abuse and mental health, a joint city-county committee. And what those folks have told me is the lack of accountability hampers the people that need help. And so it used to be, you got arrested for possession of something, you lost your kids if you didn't get well, and it provided motivation to get well. Well, they no longer have that stick at options or the substance abuse places. And so the people don't want help. Or maybe they're not capable of asking for it, I don't know. Measure 110 was well-intended. It is not working. It's hurting you. It's hurting me. The deaths from overdoses has doubled, as you well know, and you've heard that in the last year. So please write the governor and your state legislature and tell them to repeal Measure 110. I'm going to have it discussed at our agenda meeting next week, whether we want to have a joint letter, because it flat out is not working and it's hurting people. If I can go down to Riverside Park and this guy's sitting next to me shooting up on fentanyl and tells me to go fly a kite, and there's a young kid there cleaning up his garbage, that's not right. The other day I drove into town. My daughter had a surgery, so I was up there helping her with her family. And as I came into town on a Sunday afternoon, there were 4 people passed out on the county, right in front of the county courthouse. That was the image that we're presenting to people in Grants Pass, including our kids. And that is not right. So please write that letter, and I will promise you that I'll write my letter. I would hope that there's some accountability and response by our politicians, because what is enacted is hurting people. It's hurting you, and it's hurting the people that need help. So I don't know what more to say right now.
Valerie?
I just wanted to address Dan and Sharon Carpenter, who have been sitting here so patiently, and and I'm not really sure. I was just going to ask Brad if there's any. I know, with land use planning, there's not a lot that we can do in this day and age, especially with the, middle. This is going to probably be a problem that you're going to have now with the middle housing code, because suddenly, it just is. So, do you go to the person building, like Masters, and ask them, or the people building it, and ask them to please do the windows somewhere else? What is the step that they can take? I guess that's my question.
Sure. And I wrote down carpenters, so we can certainly get in touch. Sounds like Jason Mackey's, this is the first I heard of it tonight, so we'll definitely, check into it. In general, the development code allows you to do up to 2 accessory dwelling units on a parcel. Those have to meet the setback, maximum 1,000 square feet. There is nothing in the code that says it has to be a single story, but we do have setbacks. Typically, in terms of the design, it deals with the front of the unit in terms of what that looks like, not so much the back as far as windows, but we're happy to look into it further.
All right. How about emails, Karen?
There was one email suggesting a public-private partnership to put a waterworks park at Beacon Hill Park.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. And we had a start item, no.
So given that didn't pass unanimously, that's not going to be included in consent, the
So
start item.
that's actually, we're striking that from consent?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, remind me which item number, C? Okay, so consent agenda item C is not happening tonight. Consent agenda items are of such routine nature without controversy that they may be approved with a single action, and our council president will read the consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda for August 16th, 2023. Item A, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated to purchase a Fleet 3 in-car video system. B, resolution authorizing the city manager to provide reimbursement to Fernwood Properties LLC for installing a 16-inch water line to supply the future Meadowwood Reservoir. Then we have motion approving the minutes of the city council meeting for August 2nd. The minutes for the Committee on Public Art for May 9th, the minutes of the Committee on Public Art for June 20th, the minutes of the Committee on Public Art for July 11th, the minutes of the Urban Area Planning Commission for July 12th, the minutes of the Housing Advisory Committee meeting June 16th, the Collaborative Economic Development Committee meeting June 22nd, Urban Tree Advisory Committee meeting June 12th, Tourism Advisory Committee June 6th, and the Bikeways and Walkways Committee meeting May 9th, 2023. And with that, I make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Seconded by Joel. And Valerie, you made the motion to pass the consent agenda. How do you vote?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Consent agenda passes 7-0. Matters from mayor and council. Again, tonight we've had a number of people speaking on the homeless issue. We've heard from dozens of people, I think, at dozens of meetings now over the past 2.5 years. And obviously, it's a very controversial issue in our community, and a lot of people are unhappy about a lot of different things. But I think and I know who the legislative body is in this room and who makes the decisions, and I would implore you to get serious about coming up with a solution to move people out of the parks, because this has gone on for way too long. And that's my comment. Anybody else? Val?
I just wanted to make a comment. I know that this is we've all heard about Maui and what's going on in Maui, but I know Ohana Grande is a Hawaiian-based restaurant here in Grants Pass, and they're going to be doing a fundraising for Maui, and I just wanted to encourage people to go to, it's on Northwest E Street, to frequent them and ask them what they're doing and how they can help families in Maui.
Nobody else? Okay, anything?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I know. Let's get done early tonight. I know a couple weeks ago, I think it was Rob mentioned Mike Slotemaker was here, and they've been having the issues with fires down there, and I know that staff and fire, and I'm not exactly sure who was working on solutions for that area, but I was wondering if there was any sort of update on that.
We met as a staff and with them, and are going to get a memo to you probably maybe this week with regards to our observations and what can and can't be done in the riparian zone and to address some of his issues.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, excuse me, every meeting, we hear from people about the homeless issue, and, you know, we as a council haven't really done anything to address that to this point. We have the ability to help address it. I don't think the city wants to be in the business of running a shelter, but this city absolutely needs a shelter. So if there's anything we can do to help make that happen, I would like for us to consider that. So I would propose sometime here, not maybe right away, but definitely before the end of the year, putting on the agenda to have a workshop discussion just about how we can move forward and how we can help other groups or organizations to meet that goal outside of the city. So I would like to see that on the agenda again, because we haven't talked about it for quite some time.
Okay. Staff. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to share a few things of note that came up during tonight's meeting. One of which was a comment about a person in the crowd that spoke to a crime that occurred to this person. And I just wanted to share with you all that was a jurisdictional, it was not our jurisdiction, it was a different jurisdiction. So that did not have anything to do with the city police. And I provided guidance to that individual that I would be able to try my best to support that person. But again, that was not a city issue, that was a county matter. Also, too, I just wanted to mention, out of clarification to a question that came up, there's a lot of difference between violation offenses and criminal offenses. We arrest a heck of a lot of people. Unfortunately, we arrest large numbers of people every single week. So there are a ton of folks that are actually being arrested for a variety of crimes, and there are a lot of people that are being cited for a variety of crimes also. I also wanted to provide an opportunity to share with you all that Grants Pass Police Department write the most ballot measure 110 citations in the state of Oregon. We've written the most citations in the state of Oregon from day one. And it's twofold. It's to hold people accountable, but it's also to provide people with the tools that they need to walk towards some sort of treatment. So we see it as a two-pronged philosophy. So again, we are the #1 department in the state that issues citations for ballot measure 110, and as much as we disagree with it, it is what it is, and this was the hand we were dealt, and we're going to do everything we can to support this community, which is what we do. And also, I did want to mention, I am hearing a lot of things about police not showing up. We are a police department that show up to everything, period. It might take us a while to get there because we have to prioritize calls, but we go to everything. If there's a loud music call, we go. If there's a barking dog, we go. In fairness, it might take a couple of hours and the dog probably has stopped barking by then, but we're gonna go. So I just wanted to make mention to that tonight. And also too, there was a comment mentioned about how bad things are now. You all have known me since 2019, and I've been asking for more cops since 2019, which is long before we've been in this position. So I just wanted to share that with you all tonight. Thank you.
Karen.
So I wanted to share some good news. We had 1,090 people go through our GP Jeopardy booth and play the game, and had a really good turnout and a lot of smiling faces because they liked the swag they got.
Great. And it wasn't as hot for Fair Week as it is this week, so they called that right. All right, anything else? Good of the order? Nope.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Rick. All in favor of adjourning tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Be sure to let the staff know if you want to do that tour to the Roseburg facility. Check your